Welcome to Tusks Tales, a place where every hunt becomes a story worth telling. From the first track on the ground to the last echo of a hound's voice, every moment holds meaning. Together, we'll explore the hunts that formed us, the dogs that inspire us, and the stories that keep our community strong. These are the tales that keep the fire burning. Hello, y'all. Welcome to Season 1, Episode 3. We are joined here, and I'm very thankful this gentleman gave me a time to sit down with me and talk. A lot of y'all will know him off of YouTube. His page is Not Normal Adventures. His name is Justin Becker. Little bit about me finding out who he was. You know, I did a lot of research on, clearly, as y'all know from previous episodes, looking into how to get dogs started, you know, stuff like that. And this man puts out some phenomenal content. I really follow his stuff a lot because it's really great content, and it's not only great, it's very informational, and I think he does it very professionally with all the monetization and stuff like that going on. It's very hard. And if y'all would, you know, go give him a follow and a like. For us people, you know, some don't get paid to do stuff like that. It takes a lot of our time to just to even edit this content. Please, you know, reach out to him, let him know you heard this podcast. And with that being said, you know, I'll go ahead and let Justin introduce himself. Mr. Justin, if you don't mind, can you please let him know who you are, for the listeners that don't know, where you're from, how long you've been running dogs, and, you know, the type of dogs you run.
Well, I'm Justin Becker, and as it's already been mentioned, I've had a YouTube channel. We've been posting videos since 2020, or 22, I want to say. It's hard to remember now because our YouTube's deleted our videos so many times, but like you said, our channel's Not Normal Adventures. I was raised around dogs and dog hunting since a very young age. My dad ran deer dogs when I was a kid. He passed away whenever I was young. I was around dog hunting still in general between all other family members. And when I got into my younger teens, I went hog hunting with my first cousin and his dad, which would be my uncle, obviously, a few different times. And we caught some giant hogs. And at that point, I knew as soon as I could get my own set of hog dogs, I was going to be doing that. And so basically, since I turned 16, because my mom and stepdad, they wouldn't let me have like dogs of my own for the most part, because I could only do so much without being able to drive. So once I turned 16, I was able to get dogs of my own, because then I could maintain and keep up with them and go get feed and so on and so forth. And basically been getting after it since I was 16, and I'm 33 now, so y'all can do the math for in between there.
Okay.
But
and then onto your dogs. Can you inform everybody what lines you prefer to run, if any line, or if you're crossing dogs, you know, stuff like that?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I necessarily have a line. It's more or less generational breeding. There's not like a name behind any of it, really. At the moment, a lot of my dogs are a Walker, Cur, and like a Catahoula cross. I've got some Cur dogs. I've got some that are more Catahoula leopard, and I've got some that are crossbred. But at the moment, the majority of them are like a Walker Cur cross, and then Catahoula leopard as well. So little Heinz 57, just trying to dabble a little bit of it all in there.
There's nothing wrong with that at all. There's nothing wrong with that. So yeah, I mean, so with that being said, you know, out of your dogs, how many do you have on your yard currently?
I think there's 22 of them down there right now.
And 22 is in every single one's a hog dog, or I mean, you know, I'm pretty sure you do some wounded game recovery as well, correct?
Yeah. No, one of them is a full-time wounded game recovery. I used to hog hunt her, and she done phenomenal. But me and my wife, we do a lot of traveling around and deer hunting. And not to mention, I just enjoy trying to help anybody out anytime I get the opportunity. So she's actually out of a bloodline for tracking wounded game, and so I got to a point where I was like, you know what, I'm just going to turn her over for that, because when we go out of state to hunt, say I was to call a dog tracker to get him to come look for a deer, in a lot of these other states, it's like $500-$600 just to get a dog to show up, and then you almost have to match that again if they find the deer. So, you're looking, depending on what state you're in, you're looking potentially between $600 to $800-$900 just for someone to come find your deer. So I was like, when I got 20 something of them here at my house, there ain't no reason I couldn't just make one of them myself do the same thing.
Yeah. So, man, that's awesome. I like to know that you're versatile. You got a couple out there for. Is that it? You only got the hog dogs and the wounded game recovery, or you have anything else out there?
I've got a couple of deer dogs. We don't video our deer dogging too much because the places that we deer dog hunt around here, they're just really not worth much anymore. I can go run deer all day long, but we might kill a couple of bucks through a whole year. Like the place that I run deer dogs, they don't let us kill does at all.
Okay.
So you're running 20 does a day, and you can only video so many doe races and calling your dogs off of so many races. So the deer dogging deal is just something we enjoy on our own time without taking the cameras with us or anything.
Yeah. No, that makes complete sense. So, I mean, you mentioned a lot in their video. You do a lot of content, and I love it. I know a lot of people that do love it. One of my good buddies that I do hunt with a lot, he watches your stuff, and I'm not being rude, but I mean, everybody's seen American Hoggers and stuff, and it just don't really seem as realistic as you're being straight up about everything, and we love that. Now, with you, of course, like I said, you mentioned videos and stuff. What made you want to start creating content? What got you into it?
Well, so I've always not necessarily carried video cameras and so on and so forth, but like me and my wife or me and friends, I've always videoed off my phone or something in general, just to always have memories of things like that. We did a hunt. Kirk Price come down and did a hog hunt with me. If y'all are familiar with Kirk Price, he's got a YouTube channel as well. He initially started with what they called the Untamed, and then they would split ways, and he started up a YouTube channel on his own. But to get back to the beginning of that, me and him got hooked up through Instagram a few years ago, and I invited him to come down and video a hog hunt because I really liked their bear videos. And I said, come down to Florida, change it up a little bit, and we'll go video some hog hunting. So he came down here, and we had a couple of really good days hog hunting. He got some pretty good video. The particular place we went was really thick, so we didn't get to video the dogs baying quite as much. I no longer have that piece of property, but it never really set up for good videos. But we was always busy because there was a pile of hogs on the place. But so when he was down here, he was talking me into it or telling me about it. And I was a project manager for a construction company. And he was like, man, why don't you post videos on YouTube? And I said, I don't have time. I got a full-time job. That's the last thing I feel like doing after working 50, 55 hours, 60 hours a week is coming home and fooling with a video. I like to just take the days that I have to load the dogs in and go to the woods. And then, we'll obviously, people's been posting reels and the TikTok style videos for quite some time. And I had a bunch of those style videos. And so he was like, man, you could be doing that for a living. And I was like, there ain't no way there's that much money involved with YouTube. And he kind of gave me some ends on it with what they were doing and making and connections that they've had and sponsorships and things like that. And it kind of caught me off guard because I never realized there was that much money tied up in YouTube, nor have I ever looked into it to even know that there was that much money involved with it. And so he taught me into it. I got a couple of cameras and then got a couple of GoPros and things like that where I could start trying to do a little video on herself between me and my wife. And my wife, she was basically the main cameraman at the moment, the days that I wasn't self-filming. And our very first video I ever posted on YouTube blew up. And we met the monetization requirements within the first couple of months of even uploading on YouTube. and all the research and things that I had done before says that the analytics say that it typically takes the average channel like 2 years to even get to the point of what we did within 2 months.
Oh, wow.
So our channel really took off really quick. I mean, it was a blessing. But about the time it really got to taking off and started doing really good, YouTube wanted to make sure that they'd let us know that they didn't like it so much, and they shut it down quick.
Mm-hmm.
So about the time we were on that high, because happy that it was doing good and see that it was doing good, they went ahead and shut it down pretty quick. And so in the few years that we've been posting on YouTube, it's been a headache. And now I will say we're very blessed with that our channel has not been flat out deleted, because I know several other channels were getting deleted the same time that they kept demonetizing my channel and deleting all the videos. So why they didn't delete our channel, I'll never know. I'm not mad about it, because when they delete your channel, you basically can't make another channel ever again. They have like voice recognition, facial recognition.
Oh, wow.
They got all these things to basically make sure that you don't start trying to create content again.
Wow, so you pretty much just get restricted down. I mean, with that being said, I have the same problem with, I don't know if you've had it, but Facebook. I've used to post a lot of the hogs I catch on Facebook, and now I've been on a 7-day ban, I believe, or something like that. I have to ask my wife. And then after that, I got put on it started out like a 24-hour, then it went to 7 days, and then it went to like 14. So
Are you monetized on Facebook?
I don't know. I would, I got like just the simple professional dashboard, but like I'm not making money on it or anything. So I don't.
That's real strange.
It says it's like reported.
Instagram and Facebook we've had zero issues with, and I've heard other people talk about the same things that you're saying, that they've had issues with Facebook and or Instagram. But for us, we've been perfectly fine on both of those platforms. It's just been YouTube, which, naturally it would be YouTube where we are drawing a check, or, sometimes drawing a check.
Yeah.
But the amount of time and everything you put into it, like at the moment for us, it doesn't equal out to what you put in it. And there for a while, I was like, you know what? I don't even care to be monetized on there. I just enjoyed sharing our videos because of the amount of people that say their kids enjoy watching it. And so I wasn't even going to worry about monetizing our channel, and I started uploading videos. And to an extent, you're supposed to be able to get away with a little bit more, not too much more, but a little bit more graphic if your channel is not monetized. Well, that didn't seem to be the case for us, because they kept deleting us just as quick as anything, like deleting the videos. So it was like, all right, well, being demonetized obviously is no different than being monetized. And so whenever they had us on like our 90-day suspension this last time, I didn't even apply for the monetization. I just started uploading videos, and I was just keeping them clean. And then, I don't know, like a couple of months later, I was like, you know what, screw it. Let me just try it and see what happens this time. Like, they haven't messed with any of our videos. And this is when, this was after Trump come out with the whole social media platforms can't shadow ban or censor or this or that. And whenever what's his name, for the owner of Facebook or whatever, come out with that big statement saying how they were changing so many things, I was like, you know what, screw it. Let me just see if YouTube's going to be a part of any of this. And I applied for the monetization again, and they approved it, and we haven't had any issues since.
Well,
so
we'll see how long it lasts. But that's positive. I mean, I'm very glad to hear that, from you. You did mention in there, and I like to hear it, man, because I'm big about it. My favorite time to hunt, is mainly with my wife and I. You mentioned you hunt with your wife quite often, Can you explain to not just because they're a woman, they'll get out there and hunt too. I don't want to sound sexist by saying this, but can you explain to the viewers a little bit, like, my wife is honestly a better hand than majority of, and I know I got listeners that's hunted with me, and they know how she is honestly sometimes a better hand than majority of guys that go with me.
100%. I would agree with you on mine as well. Now, before we had our youngin, she was there every hunt, and she'd follow me wherever I went into the woods, unless I told her don't follow me through something because it was just that bad.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, she'd be right there at my hip pocket, right behind me, coming with me. And then she did a phenomenal job running the camera. And it sucks because, like, we had a lot of really good video over the last couple of years, and because with her, we get a lot better content when she's able to be with me running the camera, where I can focus on the dogs, and or catching the hog, and not having to focus on like trying to run a camera and also everything else. So for the last couple of years, we had some phenomenal video, and like you just said, she done a great job. And then not to mention, she's trekking through the woods with me through some of the thickest and nastiest stuff you can imagine.
Yep.
And anything I could ask of her, she'd do, and wouldn't question me on any of it. She's had to slow up a little bit since we had our youngin', which he's a little over a year old now, but he's getting to the age now where they're able to go with me a little bit more. So it'll be really nice as we get some colder weather here in the next few months, where I don't have to start at 3 and 4 in the morning, where her and him can get up and ride to the woods with me a little easier. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm not going to say all women can be the same way. And like you said, I'm not trying to mean it in any way. It's just, kind of how it is. But she's a phenomenal hand, a phenomenal help, especially when we got to do any doctoring up with the dogs or
my goodness,
anything in general.
Yeah,
and like all the utensils for like the needle pushers and pullers and pliers and so on and so forth. My hands and my fingers are too big for all that stuff. So like she's almost in a sense got to do it.
Yeah. I like that you said. I mean, I'm a little statue guy. I mean, I weigh 165 pounds, and I got smaller hands, little girl hands. But, I mean, I'm able to do that part. But, yeah, you're right. Just a level head being there, because when my dogs do get cut down, I'm the first sensitive person. Like, I'm like, oh, my gosh, I'm the freak out. My dog's I got to get him out of here, stuff like that. But she's always calm, and unfortunately, when she hasn't been calm and she was freaking out, then guess what? I was the calm one, and the dog didn't necessarily make it through the hunt. So, just being able to feel it out and hunt with your partner, especially your significant other, is awesome, because y'all know each other already, so you can kind of feed off of each other when you're in a situation like that and help each other out.
Oh, yeah.
I love it. There's nothing I would trade. I wouldn't. I love hunting with her, and I seen that you do that, and I was like, man, that is awesome. I respect that a lot. Now, you said, the heat and whatnot, you were talking about you're having to get up early. And same here, we're in southeast Louisiana, or southeast Texas, southwest Louisiana area. And you said that it's hot. Can you give me a little description? Of course, you got the weather. We know it's hot. But talk about that a little bit. And then, how wet it is. Talk about your terrain features. Kind of explain to the listeners, about what you're hunting in. I see palmetto thickets, stuff like that.
Yeah, so I've got several properties, and every one of them are different. Some of them are thick cover, some of them are wide open, some of them stay wet throughout the year, and some of them never have water on them at all. So I've got a little bit of it all. I'm very fortunate with the amount of land that I have to hunt, and to still have the amount that I have, even though I've lost so much of it over the years between landowners selling out and then state buying up property. Not trying to get off subject on that, but just very fortunate in general to have what I have. But so I have some property that basically borders the coast, the Gulf, and that place, even like this time of the year with it being, mid 90s, high 90s, midway through the day, we can still get away with hunting up until like 11, 12 o'clock, because that property always has water for the dogs and it's nice and shaded. So we get away with a lot more on that piece of property than we do any other ones of mine. I got some guys coming into town from Alabama and Georgia this weekend, the Be Outdoors guys, and then South Georgia Hogging guys. So we're going to be doing some videoing this weekend.
Awesome.
And I was explaining to them, they were like, man, let's hunt all night. And I'm like, well, let's hunt during the daytime where, because nighttime you just simply don't, y'all are coming down here for content, a collaboration to get content. People don't enjoy the night videos nearly as much
as the day.
Correct, because the average hog hunter knows what's going on and they're going to watch it. But as far as your new subscribers and you trying to grow and catch that fan base that is not a hog hunter, they're not really going to watch the nighttime stuff so much because you can only see what's in your flashlight. So, we'll be able to hunt that property down there. We'll start at 3 or 4 in the morning still, and that's like getting up here at the house 3 or 4 in the morning, getting things ready. And, we'll be able to hunt till 11 o'clock. We could potentially hunt, 6 to 7, 8 hours, roughly, give or take. And the last few days we've had great weather where it hasn't been blistering hot. So with that being said, if it is like that this weekend, we could get away with hunting until 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And it's,
wow.
During this time of the year, it's phenomenal to hear that.
Oh, yes, sir. 100%.
But like I said, that property holds more water, and it's a lot more shaded. We got the coast breeze always blowing right there, so there's always air moving. And I've got some properties, further inland that is polar opposite. You have to hunt. Get up at 1 o'clock in the morning and hunt, and you got till about 9 o'clock in the morning, and you got to call it quits. Yeah. So as far as the terrain goes, we've got some wet terrain and sandy terrain. We got a little bit of it all.
Yeah,
that's one thing about Florida. It has a lot to offer, whether it's good or bad.
So you did mention that you have that you have access to plenty of acreage to hunt. Now, from my experience, and I'd really like you to cover this for the newcomers or maybe somebody that's really struggling. This is for all hunting, period. I bet you'll cover it pretty good. Anybody hunting, you don't have to be hog hunting to be able to really get permission. Now, from my experience and what he's talking about losing due to landowners selling out and stuff like that does happen. Now, my experience, I also cover some properties that are mainly deer hunted, and out of deer season, they want me to come in and manage the hogs. Now, if you're not managing those hogs, and I'll let Mr. Justin cover a lot of this as well. If you're not managing those hogs properly and getting them out of the area, you will lose those leases. And if you're
100%.
And if you get caught doing some like, hey, I'm going to go ahead and cut it back out. Do you mind covering that a little bit, Mr. Justin, please?
Yeah. So. And with all these properties that I have, like one of them's a hunting club that I'm in. Another one's basically like a lease, which it's very similar to a hunting club kind of deal, but it's got a lot of different rules. So I'm in a hunting club, I'm in a lease, and some of them are just simply permission pieces of property. Like my hunting club, we can catch and release castrate boar hogs, turn them back loose. Basically, we can do whatever we want on that piece of property because that whole place is viewed for hunting, and it's not like a trophy management type place. So, a lot of the members in there are actually hog hunters. So as far as like having to kill every hog we catch, we don't have to do it on that place. The lease that I'm in, I have to remove every hog out of there, dead or alive. And that's because it is a deer hunting lease. And I just happen to be able to do some hog hunt as well, but just not during the deer seasons or turkey season. But during the off season, every hog has to go, like I said, whether it be dead or alive. And then basically all my permission pieces of properties, everything has to go as well. So anything that basically the places that I pay, I have a little more leniency on, and then the places that I have permission on, everything's got to go. Like I said, whether it be dead or alive, the landowners don't care. And obviously I video everything, so it's not hard for them to go watch and see what I've got going on.
Yeah.
And a lot of people around here locally can tell, as far as which land that I'm hunting, whether it's theirs or other places. So
yeah,
it depends on where we're at. And as far as the permission places go, like you said, if a landowner gives you rules, you better stick to them if you want to ever have somewhere to hunt. Because especially in Florida, we're losing land daily.
Yeah.
And the last thing you want to do is have one of the last couple of pieces of land available, and you just happen to have it yourself, and that landowner find out that you're not following the rules. And it ain't even got to be about hogs coming in and out alive, dead, or whatever. But like, say you took 6 or 7 people, and the landowner only granted you and one other person, or you and a helper or 2 helpers permission. The next thing you know, you got 3 buggies in there, and everyone and their mother's got dogs. That's something you really got to pay attention to be on the good side of landowners.
Yeah. You covered that very well. Now, like, from my experience, to kind of piggyback off of everything you just said, the landowners, mine ended up being by word of mouth, by luck. So maybe you can piggyback back off of this one. For the newcomers mainly, that get in their mind, okay, now I'm going to start reaching out to landowners and get access. Now, that didn't happen on my end that simple. I ended up, they seen my dog's work, and he goes, hey, I own this many thousands of acres. Nobody's allowed to hunt it. We do strictly, good-sized deer hunts, trophy hunts is what it is. And I need to get rid of these hogs. I've had kids and kids and kids come and try to tell me that they got dogs, and they're just not getting them out of the area. Now, I ended up going and luckily producing what I said I would do, and we were able to get them hogs off of that property every time he sent it to me. Hey, I got too many hogs over in this area. I got them on camera. We went and took care of them. Now, I did it the proper way. I also had the equipment, buggies, truck, whatever, to get the hogs off the property. Kids were taking and dumping the hogs that they were catching, and they might catch one or whatever. That is also a thing to get you kicked off of those properties. Now, with that being said, word of mouth got around real quick in that area, and there's a bunch of gentlemen with a lot of money, and they started giving me all this access to these properties. Now, can you kind of cover that, Mr. Justin, so these guys don't get the wrong mindset thinking they're just going to jump into it and get property by saying, hey, I got hog dogs, I'm going to cover it?
Yeah. Word of mouth is your best friend, and because reaching out and talking to these people is getting harder and harder. Whenever I was younger, we could talk to anybody, and they'd give us permission to their land, and they wouldn't even know who we were. But with today, everything's basically a liability now, and it's just a lawsuit in the making, or, in the waiting, I should say, not in the making. So, like, just going up there and asking somebody if you can hunt their land is much more difficult, and I'm not saying it can't be done, because it can be. It's just much more difficult anymore. The biggest thing has got to be how you present yourself, and that's even on social media. If whenever you do go hunting with your buddies or whatever, and I'm not trying to talk bad about anybody, but if you're wearing like ski mask and flicking off the cameras and doing this and doing that, and at the same time you're asking this guy that, can I have permission to hunt your land, and he comes across your social media, I mean, yeah, you don't want no one to judge a book by its cover, but at the same time, he sees stuff like that, it's just easier for him to say no.
Yes, sir.
Because
thanks for covering that.
He doesn't need that on his land, and I'm not saying nothing bad about somebody wearing a ski mask, because people are doing it just to take pictures and to be funny, but it's just something to put in perspective to think about. If you're trying to get, because I see people in Florida all the time, and they have dogs, and they want places to hunt, and a lot of these people, they message me and ask me what they need to do, and I'm like, man, the best thing y'all can do is find a hunting club, because putting posts on Facebook looking for land, that's just not going to get it.
No, nope.
And the best opportunity you would have is finding a hunting club, and because they're shrinking essentially. Because some of the places are selling out as well. There's a lot less availability for, so there's waiting lists for all of them. And I mean, you're just going to have to. It's one of the things you got to suck it up and wait. And if you have dogs and you don't have nowhere to hunt, I might look into putting those dogs in someone else's hands for the meantime. And trust me, I know it sucks, because I've had to go without dogs for a time in my life. I moved to South Florida for work, and I didn't have anything down there. It wasn't no need me keeping dogs. My whole thing, I was working a lot of hours and getting well established down there. So I knew it was not my priority to start trying to find hunting land as soon as I got down there. I knew that I could get in connection with people eventually. And the most important thing before you have dogs is have somewhere legally to hunt.
Yes. Oh my goodness. All this stuff y'all see. Sorry.
Once you get permission to land to hunt, then worry about getting dogs. You know, you don't need to have dogs and then have to rely on everybody else to take you, and then in hopes of you that will eventually get you into a place to hunt. Because if somebody has, say I had 5,000 acres to hunt all to myself, and I took a couple other people out here, well, yeah, it's nice to know that I have it to myself. Well, then you find out the person or two people you took out there are going behind your back and trying to get it. Well, to the landowner, that don't look good. So now not only is it aggravating that, you know, to yourself that person did that, but that landowner's like, man, you brought somebody out here that's going to try to go behind your back and do that. Something ain't right here. And like, I mean, I've seen people lose land over that.
Yeah. And like he said, the professional outlook on everything, y'all. Story that a lot of people don't know, and he could probably share one the same way. I used to watch all the stuff when I first got on. Like he said, make sure you got permission. That's where I'm coming off with this. I had permission on the property I originally started on. My dogs got off. They ended up on someone's camera. Well, that someone happened to be a law enforcement officer. He posted all over social media looking, and I was honest. You know, people were like, you know, everybody's got their comments. Shoot them dogs, get them off their property, blah, 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 blah. I had all the proof on my Garmin stating I was on the original property I was allowed to. I lost connection with them. They swam a creek, blah, blah, blah. They ended up like 7 miles from where we originally dropped. So I went and picked them up. And I commented honestly, and you want to know how far this honesty got me? I said, hey, those are my dogs. This law enforcement officer took the post down, called me, and gave me permission to all of his property, every bit of it, because he said it was just crazy that I was honest about it, knowing that he was law enforcement. So, yeah. I mean, I'm sure you've had maybe not that same exact situation, but I'm sure you've ran into something where somebody's given you permission to property.
Oh yeah. I've gained land being honest, and I've lost land being honest. It's been very weird. There's been many a times where I wish I would have just lied about it, to be completely honest. But I mean, it's neither here nor there. But it's at the end of the day, it's better to tell the truth, and you will gain more land that way. But in the same time of all of this, you'll lose land a lot faster than you'll gain it. So as you said, being honest about everything is what got you more. The last thing you want to do, and it just boils back into what we're just talking to in general, you want to do right on everything in every way, shape, or form. If you're all over social media, you want to look right on there. You know, you don't want to be something on there that a landowner would not like. Social media plays a huge role in getting land anymore.
Yeah, perception is everything.
100%. I mean, we could go forever in a day on how to get land and just try to help people with taking the right steps to get it. I mean, that's a subject that you could talk about for days. Yeah. So, I mean, with that, we'll kind of jump on to the next one real quick. And a lot of this, you know, I kind of mentioned we're trying to help people out that are, you know, maybe have some experience into it or kind of newcomers, and that's why I'm reaching out to these highly experienced, you know, hog hunters and these hog hunters that are going to be informational and also try to help y'all out and give y'all some tips. I got to ask you, you know, if a guy comes in with nothing, period, he can't get a hold of anybody to take him hunting with you, none of that. Or he can't get anybody to go hunt with, any of those. What would you recommend him doing? If he really wanted to get into this, where would you tell him to start? Find hunting clubs. That's the best way to get into them. Find leases that allow you to run dogs in the off season, or like a dog hunting club in general. And as I was mentioning earlier, those seem to be shrinking, so there's waiting lists on all of them. Mm-hmm. But I mean, get on those waiting lists. A lot of these hunting clubs, I mean, compared to what they used to be, yeah, they're pricey, but I mean, daggone milk's pricey. Yeah. So it's expected, you know, that the prices are high, but yeah, I mean, that's a part of having dogs. You know, ain't nothing cheap. So the best place for anyone to look is to find a hunting club that allows dog hunting, or a lease that allows it, you know, and maybe that can get your foot in the door where you can show somebody, like, say you're trying to gain access to a piece of land, or you've been talking to a guy and he's afraid your dogs are going to run all the deer off his property, because that's what every deer hunter is absolutely afraid of. I mean, because all of these deer, they just disappear as soon as dogs touch their land. Invite, if you can, if you have places, invite those people with you so you can show them and invite them to your land that you have permission or whatever, if that is. If you haven't then at the time, to be able to gain that, don't try to go on their piece and say that I can show you on their piece, because sometimes it just don't work out that way.
Yeah.
But hunting clubs or leases are the number one places I tell everyone to look.
Yeah. That's a very good one. Now, say they're starting out, they get into that hunting club. What would you recommend them to start? They got their dogs, they got all their systems, everything going. How would you recommend them to actually start them dogs? Get them going.
Well, a dog, as I tell a lot of people, a dog naturally knows how to hunt. I mean, you throw a hot dog out there in the yard, the dog's going to smell around and look for it and try to find it. A dog knows what it knows what it needs to do. It just needs the person to put it on the game to pursue. So, I mean, if you ain't hunting with anybody else, the best thing to do is get out there and beat the bushes down. And walking ain't my style of hunting, but I can guarantee you, I've had to do it plenty of times in my life. Me and my wife, we got into a wreck several years ago, and a drunk driver hit us, and he killed all of my dogs, all of my bay dogs. So I had to start over from scratch. And
wow. I didn't know that.
I personally like to train young dogs more often by themselves than without grown dogs, and that's me personally, because I don't want them to ever to have to rely on a going or grown dog. And I'm not saying I don't ever work them with grown dogs, but I work them a whole lot more without grown dogs than I do with them. And so, like, at that time when I started from scratch, we had a pile of people reach out to us and try to offer me dogs, and it was very appreciative, or I was very appreciative of it. But that's just, I know what it takes to make a dog. I like raising dogs, and I don't want to take someone's dog that they've raised and so on and so forth. And so basically I got puppies, and it was boots on the ground. I mean, I put them around the hog sign. I put them in the hog sign, around hogs. If I seen hogs, I turned them out on them. And if I didn't see hogs, we'd walk around till we found something fresh, or something of the similarity as that anyways. But I did a lot of walking at that time with puppies. And I'll tell you, with that day, that light switch just flipped. And next thing you know, they left my feet and they went and found hogs on their own. It'd make you think you won $1 million. There ain't no other feeling than that. But to be able to make dogs without having other dogs, I mean, you just got to get out there in the woods with them.
Yeah. I think you covered that very well. I like to hear that. Now, let's get into your dogs a little bit then. We might be jumping into it a little quick, but you covered a lot of stuff on, pretty much getting dogs going, and you did great on that. So, I mean, in your dogs, how do you scout? I mean, I know you got rig dogs. How do you scout an area before you even think about turning your dogs loose? Do you even scout, or do you just wing it?
No, I don't do any scouting at all. We just go to the woods, and a lot of these places I've hunted for many years, so I always have a general idea about where the hogs kind of stay, or where they might be. But no, I don't ever really do any scouting. We'll drive around till we just see some fresh rooting on the side of one of the roads, or not very many of our roads we're able to track on, because a lot of them are like hard lime rock.
Uh-huh.
The vast majority of the roads, not every bit of the roads, but the vast majority of them are hard to track. So if my dog, like say I have a dog that rigs, and I got these young dogs that I want to work, I'll turn them out first just to let them see what they'll do, because I know there's something in the area, and I'll give them time to work. And if they can't get nothing sorted out, I let them do everything that they can on their own before I'll put one other grown dog out to give them that opportunity. And then, if they follow up, cool. And if they don't, that's fine. I don't push dogs at a young age, because you're not going to make a dog do something that it doesn't want to do. I like to let a dog just develop and turn into the dog that it wants to be. So some puppies are early go-getters, and some of them are late bloomers. And to be completely honest, all of my late bloomers have always really seemed to be my much better dog than the early go-getters. And I don't know why that is, but it's not necessarily, I don't think it's a burnout thing on it. I think that your late bloomers just tend to have a little more brain and common sense than your early going dogs. And I'm not saying that's for every one of them. I think that's for the vast majority of dogs that I've trained have been that way. But for puppies, I don't want to push them. I just let them be what they're going to be. If they don't want to take a track, I don't make them take a track. And what I like to do is I like to raise them around my house to run around freely outside of pens. And that really seems to play a big role, because whenever I get them to the woods, they just all disappear all the time.
Uh-huh. Yep.
And then that just develops to not necessarily be a casting dog, but a dog that ain't afraid to go.
Yeah. So, I mean, you started talking about 8. Man, you're doing great covering some stuff. It's like questions I was already thinking about asking, and you're like, cover it. You're doing awesome. So you did mention ages a little bit. You see a lot of, and clearly we're both on social media, so we see it as well. And it is the biggest thing that bugs me the most, even with people who, and I'm not talking bad about it, I'm stating it factually. There's people that are very well known in the hog community, and if a dog ain't doing it by 6 months by itself, it's a coal. It needs to be cold. Do you necessarily agree with that, or what's your input on ages?
I don't agree with that at all. I don't agree with. I've raised, and I guess that's the difference between me and a lot of other people. Is a lot of other people don't have the access to land like I got, and I think that also gives me the ability to be a little more patient with dogs, because I can have more dogs, so it's easier for me to have 1 or 2 that I can be a little more patient on. But I mean, I like to give a puppy 2 years.
Yeah. At minimum, though. Or I mean, I'm still new to it, so I don't want to say that I know everything. But yeah, I'm glad you said that number.
I like to give them 2 years. I do not believe in the whole if they ain't doing nothing by 6 months, then like you just said, they're a coal. I don't agree with none of that. That or they're trying to move the dog, because a lot of times what they see is the person that has that 6-month-old puppy that ain't doing quite as much. It's because he sees other litter mates that are doing it at 6 months old. And whenever I'm picking puppies, granted, I'm not showing mine a pig at 4 and 5 months old or whatever to see who shows the most interest and then picking from that. I pick my dogs on based on what I see them doing when they're running around my yard and ain't even seen a hog yet. So I'm looking at the puppies that they're always got their nose down and they're kind of farting around throughout the yard. And because those just tend to be, in my mind, better dogs. And from my experience of it, they've always done me very well. I don't have too many dogs that I have to call out. And I'm not saying I never had to do it before, but I don't seem to have too many of them that I have to. And I think that's just because I let them turn into the dog that they want to be. I'm patient with them. You're not going to rush a dog in anything. Not too long ago, I got a guy, one of my bulldog puppies, and they're the same age as my son. They were born the same month, so they're a little over a year. And before the dog was a year old, he's like, man, you want this dog back. It ain't doing it. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, it should be hammering hogs by now. And I'm like, it's a puppy. You're asking, it's like asking a kid to do a grown man's job.
Yeah.
That's so. As far as like, a lot of people message me all the time and ask like, at what age should I start my dog? And it's like, I don't look for, okay, he just turned 5 months old, time to get him in the woods. If I have room in my truck to let some young puppies come to the woods with me and just turn them out and let them do whatever, I load them up and I bring them. I don't wait till they're 4 or 5 or 6 or 8, or I don't do none of that. I just start taking them, and I don't put tracking collars on them at first, but when they get to the point where they start venturing off and they start disappearing a little bit longer, then I start putting tracking collars on them. So I let the dog tell me when they're ready, and at the end of the day, I let a dog be itself.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, that covers it, a little bit. I mean, I honestly want to say, from my opinion on the research I've done, because I've followed a lot of these people, and I thought they were God's gift to hog hunt. And then I also, when you do your research, and I tell a lot of people to do their research, those same people that are saying, man, if a dog ain't finished by or catching hogs, finding their own by the time they're 6 months, do your research on majority of them. I don't name drop or nothing, but you have access to do all this research. I don't really see them, and they don't have to post the hogs. You can tell by the way they're looking for other dogs. They're looking for more dogs. They need a fine dog. They need this. They need that. And that, like I said, I want to help the newcomers out, or people that are in it and they're just not figuring it out. That's kind of stern and might push some viewers away by saying that, but I don't care. I'm going to be honest in this whole thing. So I don't know if you agree with me on that, Mr. Justin, but I mean, I wanted to cover that before we went on to the next thing.
Yeah, I mean, patience is key to everything in life, and especially a dog. I've mentioned it several times. You're not going to make a dog be something it doesn't want to be. And if you think that you have to have a go-getter by 8 months, then you probably have never. I'm just being completely honest here.
Yeah.
You've probably never made very many good dogs.
Yeah.
That's just kind of how it is. Anyone that's been a part of making dogs knows that it's patience, and breeding does play a big role in that, because if you get to breeding, you get to a point where if you've been breeding long enough, you kind of know what to expect out of dogs, I guess would be the best way for me to word that.
Yeah.
And that still ain't going to be the case for all of them. And there's some dogs that just are flat out not going to make it, but you still don't know that by 8 months old.
No. And that really goes right into the next one. I mean, I've seen a lot of people, and this one really kind of chaps me a little bit personally. But I'm not going to let anything get to me. Claiming that their dog's doing it 100% on their own at 6 months old. I mean, I'm sure there's their very select few, because I've seen it in the lab world where they've finished a dog out in a certain amount, not 6 months, but I mean, it was a young age. But in the hog dog world, I just don't see a dog going out, finding its own hog, and stopping it and baying good until the catch dog gets there at 6 months. I mean, am I wrong by saying that? I mean, there's going to be 100 people that are going to tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to say it's never happened, but you are not taking a 6-month-old puppy to the woods on a regular basis and stopping hogs on a regular basis.
Yeah.
But I'm also not saying that it's never happened, because I've had young dogs that have done it, but they were not consistently doing it at that age, because a 6-month-old puppy is going to come across the right hog that's going to probably send it back with its tail tucked.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking bad about any dog, but it's a puppy, you know. And
they're really not even built yet. They don't have good reflexes.
Exactly.
If you've ever really stuck a puppy in a bay, anybody that wants to argue this should know, regardless of the bloodline, I don't care who you are or who the dogs come from. The statute of the dog and the muscles are not all formed yet. That dog does not have good reflexes to really get out of it. And if there is a good hog in the situation, am I explaining that correctly, or am I just...
Yeah, no, I would agree with you 100% there. And like I just said, I'm not saying that a 6-month-old to an 8-month-old puppy has never done it, because I've personally had some that have done it and been a part of it.
Yeah.
But I 100% ain't never seen one in my life that consistently does it.
And on their own at that,
But yeah, but I've seen plenty of people on social media talk about them, but I ain't never seen them.
Yeah. And that's the biggest thing I want y'all newcomers that listen in on this, that have messaged me about it. Do your research on them. I mean, just do it. I've given a dog away that was a little, just for a quick story on this end, she was doing it on her own, and I posted her, not for sale. I gave her for a sack of feed or something. She was doing really good. And she was doing it on her own. The guy proceeded to make a post about her, trying to sell her again, said she's been doing it on her own, that she's only 8 months old. The biggest lie ever, because that puppy was with I can't remember her exact age, but she was well over a year old. So you got to do your research into these people that are claiming these numbers. Now, with that being said, Mr. Justin, I do want to ask you, what age do you believe? 100%. Everybody says every dog will do it on their own, or not everybody, but you know how it is out the social media world. Every dog does it on their own. Don't get caught up in that on my end. I'm telling you, don't get caught up thinking that every single dog's going to do it on their own. There's some that don't, and sometimes you need help dogs. It really is teamwork. But in your honest opinion, Mr. Justin, what age are you thinking that you got a good dog going, it's doing its job on its own 100%? How old do you think it roughly is being consistent?
Oh, I would say consistently a year and a half.
I like that number. I really do.
And I mean, I'm going to say this again. I'm not going to say I haven't had younger dogs that will go do it, because like he probably is my best dog at the moment. He went and found hogs multiple occasions all around that 10 to 12, 10 months old to a year, several occasions. Was he doing it consistently? No. Yeah. But several occasions he went on his own and found hogs and or jumped a hog, might have not stopped it. Yeah. He was doing a lot at his age, and I'm not saying he's one in a million by no means, but he was just one of them dogs. One of them dogs that, long story short, I hope I have plenty more of them throughout my lifetime, because he's been a great one. Now, I've had other dogs that, they were not doing it at 10 months old, but it was like as soon as they got closer to 2 years old, bam, it was like a light switch, and they were, on their own. And as you mentioned, not every dog's going to be on their own, but I would say, a good age just to say is a year and a half or so.
Okay. And with that year and a half age, let me ask you this. It's going to throw a little twist in it. Do you believe, which I do highly, a lot of people know how much I care about my dogs and whatnot. Do you believe growing a bond with the dog is a huge part of that or not?
Oh, yeah, 100%. You don't just train a dog, send it to a new home, go to the woods the next day and expect it to do what it's been doing for, say I've had that dog for 3 years, and I just put it in someone else's hands. They take it to the woods tomorrow. I can about guarantee you're not going to get the same results tomorrow, and it's going to take you gaining a bond with that dog and y'all getting on the same page. Basically it's back to teamwork. That dog's got to know when to swing, and you got to know when to swing. Bond plays a big role in it in my mind.
Yeah, I like that. Now, so then you would the next one I was hoping maybe you'd cover it when the bond part come up, but that's like the first one you didn't cover, which is good. You're doing great on answering all these for everybody. Now, I don't agree with it 100%. I wouldn't say any trial period, but a 2-week trial. Everybody's like, oh, I want a 2-week trial. I still don't believe that's enough time to necessarily see what the dog is actually capable of.
I do agree with you that 2 weeks ain't long enough, but at the same time,
you can
as
tell,
I just
though,
mentioned, as kind of just going back to what I just said a minute ago, if I put a dog that I've had for 3 years in someone else's hands, you can about almost guarantee that that's going to go, like you said, 2 weeks ain't long enough. Yeah. You put it in someone else's hands, it's kind of, you got to, I don't know. As far as answering that question, it's kind of got me in a bobble here. You need more time than that. But at the same time, do I think I'm going to give someone a trial on a dog for a month and a half to see if they want to buy it? At the same time, I don't know that I'm going that route either.
Yeah, because then you can risk, for a lot of newcomers, you can risk getting anything. Picking up worms, getting, any type of stuff from their other dogs that maybe they potentially couldn't be taken care of or something, and
you can take a really good dog and put it in a bad man's hands, and they can ruin a dog.
Thank you for saying that.
I guess I was kind of trying to put that into perspective at the same time. So, you really can't judge what the dog goes and does with that other person if they don't have a good handle on a dog at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, I like that you said that, because they could be out there trying to, use some stimulation on the dog, and that dog's never had any type of shock around its neck and is just freaking out there and could absolutely ruin its casting abilities, its trailing abilities, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. Now the next one, we're still in the ages of dogs, kind of. Now, trash breaking. Can you kind of cover that a little bit? Deer, possum, whatever y'all got down there. I mean, I ain't hunted Florida yet, so if you can kind of cover trash breaking, that would be awesome.
Man, I let puppies run whatever they want to run. I don't care. And as far as like the landowners and places that I have permission to, I mean, they see it on my YouTube channel for the most part, because I'll talk about it. But I'll let puppies run whatever they're going to run, because a puppy will start chasing. For an example, say they start chasing a deer, and there's a grown dog on the ground, and that grown dog doesn't chase them. That puppy's going to shortly realize something ain't right here. I'm all by myself. So I will correct that if it's needed. Basically, at some point after it depends. It's hard to say an age, because I play it on based on how well the dog is pursuing a game. So say at 10 months old, this puppy is just kind of starting to get its feet wet and starting to chase a little bit here and there. I'm going to let that dog just run whatever for the next couple of months. And now say we got that dog that started at 10 months, but the next one don't start till a year and a half. Well, everyone's running a race good, and for whatever reason they just kind of went off on a deer, and the one puppy that started at a year and a half followed up on that year with the deer. I'm not going to do nothing with that dog, because it's just finally getting its feet wet and it's just starting to pursue. You can always correct a dog, but you can't ever put the drive and the hunt into a dog. So I like to make sure, whatever the age is, that the dogs are pursuing and just getting the hell after whatever. And then over time, what I'll start doing is, and I don't even shock them over it. If they cross a road, I'll get to that next road and I'll catch them up. And then what I'll do is, I'll say they were just running a deer. I'll take them and I'll go immediately to the freshest hog sign I can find and turn them right back out. And so I try not to use the shocking correction for young dogs and trash breaking. I try to do everything that I can manually to correct it. And as far as an age goes, it just depends on how well the dog is pursuing anything, as far as at what point do I decide I'm going to just go ahead and start correcting it. But a lot of my dogs tend to figure it out on their own. If they see that there's no other grown dogs following up with them, if I have them out with a grown dog, they kind of start realizing, like, something ain't right here. And so I will say that my dogs seem to have enough brain that they'll for the most part kind of correct it themselves.
Yeah, that's I'm in agreement with that. I like that. I do kind of the same thing, as listeners know. So I mean, with that being said, your drive and your control in the pack, So we talked. You mentioned a little bit. You don't stimulate them; you just grab them up. How do you balance that drive and control, though? So, would you rather a dog have? I guess more or less what I'm asking. Would you rather that dog have a lot more drive and less handle? I know everybody wants the middle. I get that. Or would you rather have a little bit more of a handle and a tiny bit on the backside on the drive? I want a lot more drive. Okay. Now I am very fortunate enough that my dogs have the drive and the handle. I mean, I would say, and I believe anybody that watches our stuff or hunted with us would say how well of a handle all my dogs have. Yeah, I know. But the drive is the most important. You can have the best handle on them in the world, but if they won't go out there and find you a hog, then that handle don't mean nothing. Yeah. I would say I'd prefer the drive over it. Yeah. I'll kind of go back on this. You can always correct the dog. You can't ever make the dog do anything. So I want to make sure a dog, as far as the age-wise go, I want to make sure they are just getting after it.
before we start putting them on the game that we really want them to pursue.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I mean, I think everybody's on that. I'm trying to steer away from that question more or less now because I'm really not a fan of that question anymore, because even asking myself after learning a lot of this from y'all and some of the other people I've already, done this podcast with, it's more or less, I'm in agreement now. It's pure drive. So, I mean, with all that, you mentioned, running puppies with older dogs and stuff like that. How many dogs are you usually on a typical day dropping at one time to hunt? I mean, I already know because I do watch a lot of your videos, but for people that haven't watched them yet, can you kind of explain to them?
So, I mean, I'll put out 6 dogs at one time, but I'm not putting 6 dogs out together. So, like, what I like to do is I'll turn out 1 or 2 dogs together. Every now and then I'll turn 3 of them out, but if I turn 3 of them out, that means there's typically like 2 puppies and a grown dog.
Yeah.
So for myself personally, that's really about the most I like to turn out. I really don't like to turn out more than 3. But say I find some fresh sign and I turn a dog or 2 out and they trail off and they go off and, they ain't even got to jump the hog yet. But if they trail off a couple hundred yards, I'll leave them. That way they'll stay in that area and hunt. And we'll drive further away and we'll try to find some more sign, and I'll drop a couple of more dogs out. And if those dogs trail off and the other dogs still don't have a hog stopped yet, I'll go a little bit further and same deal. Just try to up our odds of trying to get some game stopped or just some races going in general. So it just depends. But I mean, as far as putting dogs on the ground, I'll put 6 to 7, 8 of them on the ground, but they won't all be together.
Yeah. Man, I did. I found out a really big mistake doing that. I used to drop multiple dogs as well, but I hunted a lot by myself. So I found out real quick, when you got some decent going dogs and they split in different directions, you got multiple bays going on. And I was by myself and I was like, yeah, never again. I'm just going to stick to like 1 or 2 at a time. So,
yeah, you can get carried away real quick.
Yeah,
there ain't no doubt about that.
For sure. Now, we're both on social media. We're getting kind of towards the end of this podcast. Is there anything else you'd really like to cover about your dogs and maybe give a little bit more advice to? We're not ending yet, guys. I got a couple more questions, but while we're on the topic of dogs and helping new hunters, I really would like him to cover anything he potentially could. Is there anything else you'd like to? Help a newcomer or somebody that's in it and they're really on the struggle bus right now, something?
Yeah, I mean, we've already covered all of this, but the most important thing is having land to hunt before you have dogs, and then when you get dogs, just be patient. And this is something we didn't go over. When you get some land to hunt, say you've done all of this and you've gotten land to hunt, pay attention to the terrain you have to hunt, and then the research of what kind of dog would best fit that terrain. I trained a dog for a boy that hunted big woods, a bunch of big timber blocks, no open pastures or none of that in there. Well, he was getting into the hog hunting. He's in a hunting club. What he did is he drove to the furthest South Florida point that he could drive and bought 2 cur dogs that were cow dogs, and they basically had been raised hunting hogs in pastures. They've never had to go find them. They've never had to really go beat the woods down and go find hogs. Now, I'm not saying they were straight sight dogs, but they didn't have to trail over 80, 100 yards to go find a hog. Well, when he got those dogs up into the big woods, they were useless.
Yeah.
They were useless. So if you get to that point to where you get your land and you get all your ducks in a row, and now you're trying to get what dogs, really pay attention to the terrain you're hunting and the style of dog you're looking for. If you're hunting big woods, look for a dog that's going to trail off or cast, something with a better nose. A pasture sight dog ain't going to do you no good if you have all woods. And now if you got all that open land and you don't need a dog with a nose, then, obviously just do your research on it. But I remember that was something that we didn't cover. That I'm not saying a lot of people, but a lot of questions I get on social media, people seem to have a lot of time deciphering and going through all that, because you got all these pages down here on Facebook, and people are posting dogs for sale every day. Like when that boy brought those dogs to me to train, the post said got hog dogs, and he's like, well, I went and bought hog dogs, and I was like, well, that don't always mean that you've got yourself a dog that'll go find you a hog.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Just always do your research for the terrain and the type of dog.
Yes. And man, we might have to go on this a little bit more with this part. Now, he mentioned that, okay? Guys, I can't explain enough. You got your sight hounds, you got your scent hounds, and like I said, I'm still new to this. I'm no pro, but it's common sense. And I jumped into it very, in a bad way. I hunt a lot of wet ground, so I needed a dog with a little bit more. And rivers, they had to be able to swim and keep a good track. So that, I did choose the plot hound. And I also, I had the Slovakian Kopovs. And I'm going to try them out as well because of our large thickets we have. They're a smaller statute dog. Now, Mr. Justin covered that so professionally, guys. I'm telling you, what he is saying is, this is why I watch him. You have to watch him. He's explaining all this in a great way. Now, just without me doing it, will you please explain to them? You jumped over it a little bit. You covered it, but somebody new might not know this. Cover them sight hounds, them scent hounds, why they wouldn't be effective in those different terrains you're talking about.
So, if, like my big woods, I very rarely drive around and see a hog. So if I only had dogs that relied on seeing hogs, we would never catch anything. And if we had to rely on them only taking a very fresh track, then our odds probably wouldn't be quite as good either. So and the only reason I know all this because I go to South Florida hunt quite often with a bunch of buddies of mine down there, and a lot of them don't even come up here and hunt because of how much more difficult it can be. Just because, sometimes our blocks are so big on my places that sometimes the closest I can get to a dog in some of these blocks is 800 yards. In South Florida, that's unheard of. I mean, you can almost get within 100, and I'm not saying this is every piece of property. I'm just saying this is for all of the ones that I've hunted, and I've hunted quite a bit of them down there. You can almost get within 100 yards walking distance of any dog baying, and that's you not wanting to drive right up on top of it baying a hog. With that being said, the blocks of woods of South Florida are a lot smaller, so the hogs even have a lot less places to lay up. Common sense is going to tell you where hogs are. And so a dog knows in South Florida he doesn't have to go very far. And all of my buddies' dogs do a phenomenal job with it. They know that they don't have to trail a hog 300 or 400 yards. All they got to do is go into this little head right here, make up a quick loop, and they come right back to the buggy. Okay. If I had those kind of dogs doing the same thing around these big woods that I hunt, we would have a lot less to show at the end of the day. And, I mean, it goes back to doing your research and knowing the terrain, knowing what the dogs are capable or incapable of. If you've got a big block of woods, you want to look for dogs that have a colder style nose or have a little more go to them that'll go 200, 300, 400 yards if they need to. A lot of those South Florida dogs, they just simply don't need to. And I'm not saying that's all of them, but the vast majority of them don't need to do all of that for like what I would expect or need a dog to do in big woods and places like that I hunt. Yeah. So,
I mean,
research is perfect.
Yes, sir. He covered that, and like he said, research. Do your research on all the dogs you're potentially wanting to get. I started out the wrong way. I've already explained that to people. And the way he said it, I had, like he explained the dogs going to different areas. I've had people come down here that swear they got the best dogs ever from West Texas-ish area. And they got down here and they ran in these thickets and on this river, and they're like, what are we doing? I'm like, this is how we hunt. Well, y'all don't thermal, or y'all don't drive right up to it. Nope, my dogs are bayed up. We got to walk 700 some yards. we can't get closer. No, we're in. It's not happening.
Everybody's got the best dogs in the world for their terrain, and they haven't traveled anywhere else. Because I know for a fact I could go to West Texas with my dogs, and I could 100% not expect the same results as I get right here where I hunt.
Yeah.
And that goes for almost all dogs. I mean, and I'm very fortunate enough that I've been able to travel around and hunt different places. I ain't been to West Texas, but I know that West Texas is a whole hell of a lot different than it is right here in Central Florida.
Oh, I'm sure.
So
I'm sure.
And so, I mean, and we're just going to keep repeating ourselves here, but
yeah.
I mean, you really got to, you can't just buy a dog like that. You got to do your research, like we've said a million times. Just because someone says that they got a dog that'll trail a hog from a 10-hour-old track in dry dirt, okay, that's dry dirt. Put that same dog in the swamps, and it's probably going to wonder what the heck, why are you putting me on the ground right here?
Yeah, especially crossing waters and stuff. But yeah, I mean, he covered a lot of that. Now, we going to get off of those. We could talk all day long about stuff like that. Now, you have YouTube. You're really successful with it. I know you got other videos on other accounts that, if I'm correct, that have more, I guess, explicit videos on it. Correct?
Yeah, we fooled around with Rumble a little bit, but so Rumble actually reached out to us when YouTube was giving us a fit, and I had never even heard of Rumble, and that's the thing, is a lot of people have never even heard of it. Well, Rumble was allowing us to post basically the full raw videos, everything with the catching, tying, castrating, and turning hogs loose, everything under the sun we were able to post on Rumble. But the problem is Rumble doesn't have a big following yet. Not many people have heard of it. So a lot of people just didn't want to switch over to that platform because it's an inconvenience. And so, like, I don't know. There's videos on there, but I have not uploaded in several months just because, I mean, we're not getting the views on it. And the uploading process on Rumble is a little differently than YouTube. And I tell everybody that Rumble's basically like the Harbor Freight version of YouTube. So it was kind of a pain. Like, Rumble's a pain, which they're trying to get it all figured out because it's a new platform. So, like, even finding our videos was a little more difficult. And with all of that being said, basically none of our following went to Rumble. Very few of them did. So there's just no point in uploading on two different platforms. Even if I could put raw versions on this other platform, if no one's going to watch it, that's more editing work or more this or more that. And if it's not getting views, then, I mean, it ain't worth the time, basically.
No, yeah. I mean, it kind of goes into our next one. You mentioned a little bit, people don't want to take the time out of it, but they want the information, and they don't realize this stuff is, we take a lot of time. I do just for the podcast. I couldn't imagine how much time you take to do a YouTube video. How do you deal with those critics? The people that want to come in and criticize you for everything. I mean, I know a lot of people want to say, oh, I ignore them. Can we get a little bit more detail on how you deal with them, even if it's another hog hunter just talking crap, or if it's a PETA, whatever, PETA person, how do you deal with that?
I will say that we haven't ever really gotten much of it, to be completely honest. Here lately, we've gotten quite, I would say here in the last month or two is the most that I've ever gotten, ever. And that would be between Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And shoot, the vast majority of them has been some boys between Mississippi and, I think the other ones are from Alabama or whatever that have been on there running their mouths. But until here lately, we haven't had much of it. I don't know. I mean, but as far as how do I handle it, I mean, yeah, like you said, a lot of people just say they ignore it. I find enjoyment to it. And sometimes I try to find a good way of going about it, of trying to create back and forth, but where I'm trying to think of the correct way to word it. I try to make it sound like it, to go back and forth in a professional way, because like if I can create any form of back and forth, that helps with the analytics. So so for YouTube, if YouTube sees a bunch of commenting going on, then it sees a bunch of people are interested in that video. Oh. Whether it's good comments or bad comments, it's comments. Uh-huh. So if I can keep that back and forth going, and at the end of the day, I don't care. It cracks me up. And I can make it seem like I'm getting aggravated with them, but that's the whole purpose of it. And to get them fired up and to keep them wanting to go back and forth. So, and then it helps out a whole lot more if other subscribers or followers are the ones going back and forth with them. That's even better, because, then YouTube sees that it's others and not necessarily myself.
Yeah.
So I try to use it for entertainment. I try to post screenshots of those types of comments and post them like on my stories to try to drive more interactions to those posts to get more people commenting.
Yeah. I mean, that literally goes in. You're doing it great. The hog hunters argue, man. People don't realize, and I'm trying to get a little unity going here. People do not realize that there is an outside community watching all of us. And the dog hunters, hog hunters, however you want to word us, houndsmen. I'm not claiming to be a houndsman. I'm just saying everybody, period. They get in these arguments, and they just get so much animosity towards each other, and I'm not quite sure why. I mean, I get it. There's jealousy out there. There's this, there's that. But then there's some real big name people that will absolutely degrade the heck out of somebody trying to get into this. What's your input on that? Being as big as you are in YouTube, how do you react to stuff like that?
Just try to find a way to use it as an entertainment. If you're going to let stuff like that get you worked up, you're not going to make it very far. Because you're going to be criticized on everything you do, no matter what. Yeah. Like me posting on social media and YouTube and all that, there tends to be a lot more people that know more about my hogs and my land and my dogs than I do somehow. Like, so for example, just recently we had one of my dogs get his Achilles tendon cut. We made a post about it, and that's a devastating hit. And I understand that, dogs can come back from these injuries, but that's a 5 to 6 month healing process, that he's down, and one of your top dogs down for that long. I mean, that's a really big hit, not to mention when we've only got, I would say right now we've got like 3 grown going dogs, and the rest of them are puppies. Well, so like a guy jumps on there, people I've never met before, and he's like, the dog will be okay. I've seen this and that and the other, yada, yada, yada. And it's not like your dogs or your hogs run very much. So, you don't need your dog to have to run much because your hogs don't run much. And, people like that, you got to find enjoyment behind. But it's like, obviously they know me so well and our hogs. And people like that, it's easy. You could try to defend yourself on there, but there's no point. To me, the best way for me to do anything about it is either A, to go back and forth with them, or let other people chime in for it. And for that particular comment, I didn't have to comment back. But, as far as the critics go, you're going to get them. That guy's never hunted any of my places. All he's done is watch a couple of my YouTube videos. And I can't tell you how many hunts that I've been on where we didn't upload videos because we've ran a hog for 3 or 4 hours, and they ate up a whole morning or a whole day, and then the hog got away, or something like that. And so, there was a whole hunt of me making interviews about how we ran a hog around for 4 hours. That's not very entertaining, and I don't post those videos. But because I don't post those videos, people assume that your hogs don't run because you can go to the woods and catch 5 or 6 or whatever. Yeah. And it's like, well, you're just seeing our good days.
Yeah.
So, and those critics, you just got to find a way to make enjoyment out of it, or make fun with it. Because, like I said, if it's gonna get you all riled up or get you down in your feelings over it, then you're not gonna last long.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm in agreement with you. So outside of all that, hunting hog dogs, what is the hardest lesson? Let me word this properly. You know, I want to make sure I word it just right. But, you know, while you were hunting hog dogs, what is the hardest lesson you had to learn about it?
Being patient.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Shoot, I haven't heard that one yet. But, yeah, that makes absolute 100% sense.
Being patient, you know, you got to take your time. I mean, you just, especially like when I started all over after our wreck, and I started out with young dogs, I went to the woods every chance that I got, and 95% of the time I went home and didn't catch a hog. But I knew that when that day come around and they got of age, everything was going to fall in place, and you know, and at that point on, they were going to be hell on wheels. And so things like that, you know, I mean, I was starting from ground zero. You know, basically, you could say that I had nothing. That was all there is to it. I had nothing. I started with puppies all over, and it was just bad timing because nobody had any young dogs or puppies, or I shouldn't say puppies. None of my buddies had young dogs at the time. And that would have been the only way I would have taken a young dog from somebody, because I wasn't going to take a grown dog because we got plenty of offers. But I just had to learn how to really be patient, especially with the way that I was going about training them and not training them with other grown dogs. So I went to the woods by myself with puppies, 100% knowing that I'm not going to catch anything today. But I was going to do everything in my power to put them puppies where they needed to be in the woods. And as I mentioned, over time, I knew that all of these ducks would fall in line and everything would work out. So just knowing and learning how to be patient in that process is difficult in the time being.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great answer. You know, that's probably going to help a lot of people out, knowing that, you know, with how successful you are, the amount of time that it did take, you know, for you to actually get into catching hogs. You admitted it right there. I mean, I like to hear that, especially, like I said, with how successful you are. It'll make a lot of people not so stressed about catching a hog. Maybe they'll put some, you know, have a little bit more patience. Now, if there was, we're coming towards the end of it, you know, I got a couple more questions I'd like to ask you. I'm going to ask everybody these same last two. What is something you hope people will always remember you about on your hunting career?
Wow.
Yeah.
Always ask that again.
Okay, so what do you hope every single person out there listening to you, watching your videos, everything, will remember you for during your hunting career?
I would say remember me for, like, the bond that I have with my dogs, like how I treat them, as far as how I am with my dogs, you know.
I like that.
I don't give a crap about them remembering me as catching hogs or anything like that. I mean, anyone can do that. Is how they are with their dogs, in my mind, means something different.
Yeah. I like that answer. I think you and I, you know, based off of how I do a lot of my hunting, I think we're actually very similar in two different areas. I mean, I really do. Mine, I have dogs that sleep inside, and of course I have some outside. And sometimes I'll be honest with you, and I hate to admit it, but my best male, I really hate cutting him out. I know we're going to catch a hog, but I know that one out can just be the end of it, you know?
Oh, for sure.
It sucks. It is hard to come to the realization, and not saying anything bad, but if you don't think that, and you've been working on a dog for 5 or 6 years, I mean, I don't really think you care about that dog too much. I hate to put it that way, but it's just the truth.
I had a catch dog, and we had to put him down, long story short, because he had a tumor show up on his brain. But I had that dog for 12 years. And a catch dog's, that's something impressive for a catch dog to live that long, to be able to retire, basically.
Uh-huh.
There ain't very many catch dogs that just flat out get to live. And, I mean, and he was raised in the house. So, you know, basically, my baby, basically,
Yeah.
He was like a little dang kid in the house. And like you said, you turn him out, and you never know when that last day's going to come. But fortunately, we got several years of it with him. But man, it still ain't the same having him in the house, because all of my dogs mean a lot to me. I don't have a dog in my yard that means any less to me than any of the other ones that are out there.
Yeah. Yeah. Man. Yeah, that's a little touchy stuff. I hate talking about it. I really do. Because if you don't feel like, I'm assuming he feels, if you don't feel that way, man, I don't know. I don't even know how to put words behind that one. I just really do care about my dogs, and they're like family to me. There's some things I've seen dogs do that, there's not a lot of things that a human would do for you. And I'll cover that in a future episode about me being in the military and whatnot. So there's a lot of things dogs will do for you, and you'll start respecting them more, I'm sure, if you were to hear stories that I'm about to tell in the future. Now, that my kind of portrays to my last question. And I'm going to ask everybody this. What is your favorite dog of all time, 100%, and why?
Oh, all time.
Yep, not right now. All time, and why is it?
I would have to say that it would be the catch dog that I just talked about that we had for many years. Just for the fact of having a dog that long. And so when we were in that wreck, all of my bay dogs got killed. He, as my catch dog, he survived the wreck. And I ain't saying he's my favorite because of that, because, I mean, he's just an all-around phenomenal dog. He's a well-mannered dog. I had a guy put $15,000 cash in my lap one time for that dog, and I turned it down because money can't replace that. And why he is just, I mean, he was like a little human, essentially, with four legs, basically. I mean, he would give you a side eye, stank look. I mean, he had a personality like no other. We went through a whole lot together, and obviously, when you have a dog for that long, you both see a lot in general.
Yeah.
So I would say him of all time, and he ain't even, I mean, that's just a catch dog. That ain't even a bay dog or nothing.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've had some good ones, so that's a tough question there. But that dog I had longer than any other dog, so I would have to say with him. His name was Forrest, and he's the father of a puppy, or I say puppy, my catch dog right now, my lead catch dog, which I call Ali, Muhammad Ali.
Yep. Everybody knows who Ali is. Well, that of course follows your YouTube and whatnot. Now, I'm sorry, I got one more. I forgot it. If you don't mind, I got one more. Your most memorable hunt. I forgot to ask you earlier. I usually do about midway through. It's like I said, it's not scripted. We were getting on good topics. I do got to hear your most memorable. I don't want your favorite hunt, your funniest hunt, your best hunt, none of that. The one that meant the most to you. I don't care how boring it is.
I would say after our wreck, getting them puppies going, they were all about 9-10 months old and basically I have one of those dogs right now, and his name's Bubba, which basically anyone that follows our channel, they know who he is. It was him. We had a dog named Delta, and then we had Fancy. And basically when all three of those dogs found a rally of hogs all on their own as puppies and bait them. And I want to say, if I remember right, they were around 9 or 10 months old. So I'd probably have to say that'd be my most memorable hunt right there, because, with all the miles and the hours and everything that I put into those dogs right there, starting from scratch and hearing that bark, knowing and not knowing, thinking in my mind, like, they ain't baying no dang hogs. Like, we ain't bayed a hog yet. Why would we all of a sudden be baying a hog now? And as soon as they went to barking, next thing you know, I heard a bunch of pigs and sows go to grunting, and they had a whole rally bait up for their very first hogs on their own with no other grown dogs. So,
wow,
that'd make them. It might not make anybody tear up, but it sure enough had me tearing up that day, just knowing what all went into that moment.
That's awesome. That is awesome, and I think that's a great way to end it. Other than asking you, is there anything you'd like to say to anybody out there? Of course, tell them what your channel is if you don't mind before we hang up, and tell them how they can follow you and support you, whatever.
Check us out on YouTube, Not Normal Adventures, and it's not with a K, K-N-O-T. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. If you ever got any questions, feel free to message us on any of those accounts. And just following along and commenting and liking videos is the best way to support us. We've got merchandise, hats, shirts, sewing and stickers, and so on and so forth, if y'all or kids are ever interested. But one of the best ways to support us is just watching the videos and liking them and leaving a comment.
Yes, sir. Well, with that being said, Mr. Justin, I think that's all I've got. I appreciate you taking your time out of your day. Maybe next time we talk, all these first rounds of people I'm talking to them about, trying to get informational podcast going, and then I'd really like to contact you again, and maybe in a month or two, and just talk about some good hunting stories. If you can start jotting some down, maybe we can talk and get you back on here and get them posted out there.
Sounds good. We can make it happen.
All right. I appreciate you, sir, and have a good evening.
All right, man. Same to you.
Bye. That wraps up today's journey on Tusks and Tales. From the woods to the kennels and every trail in between, these stories bind us together. Thanks for listening, and until next time, may your dogs run true and your fire never fade.